through this ceiling.
Caught on camera, a firehouse collapses under the weight of heavy snow. Planets on parade. How you can catch the sky show this week.
7, count them, 7 planets will be visible in a sort of alignment.
AI forecasting. How Google's DeepMind is able to look so far into our weather future.
This sort of research can kind of help advance a field which will really benefit so many people.
And we'll take a trip back in time to explore the lost art of ice harvesting.
From our nation's capital, this is the National Weather Desk.
And good morning and welcome to the National Weather Desk. I'm Angela Brown. Multiple wind and winter storm warnings are posted for the Pacific Northwest as another atmospheric river brings nasty weather conditions to Oregon and also Washington. Nearly 150,000 power customers in both states are waking up in the dark this morning. Wind gusts as high as 70 miles per hour are blowing down trees and power lines. One of those massive trees crashed through the windshield of a car right here, trapping a man and his daughter inside. He says 2 people in another car rushed to help.
I was able to get out. But my daughter was scared, but she's okay.
The wind picked up, there was lightning, which we usually don't get, and then really heavy rain.
In another part of Seattle, a tree fell in a car, trapping 2 children and an adult. Fire crews cut the tree apart, actually, and rescued everyone who was inside. That same storm system brought hail to Oregon. This video we have for you was taken by a viewer right here in Silverton near the capital of Salem and sent to our station on Chime In. Oregon also experienced heavy rain, wind, and even a few tornado warnings. Thankfully there were no confirmed twisters. That's the good news here, but the winds were so strong they left a giant hole in a family's home. Tanvi Varma is just north of Portland, Washington State, with the details.
This family of Ukrainian refugees is figuring out what to do next. All they know is they can't live here.
What does he do now? It's winter outside. It's really windy, it's raining, he has nowhere to go.
This right here is a remnant of the tree that came in and crashed through this ceiling, completely destroying it and leaving damage right here where the 2 kids of the family were playing minutes before.
She usually puts the kids to sleep around 3, maybe sometimes 4, 5, 6. So they were kind of rowdy, they didn't want her to go to sleep, so she just had a feeling that, let me go downstairs, let me go do something in the kitchen, and they followed her down. Just kind of 3 minutes later, she felt that, or she heard just this loud sound come through the roof, and she just looked up and saw branches flying through the stairs, hitting the door at the end of the stairs.
The family is grateful that the kids were unhurt. They get emotional thinking about what could have happened. But now they have to face the uncertainty about what is going to happen.
She just reached out to any friends that were available, and thank goodness they're willing to take them in.
And NOAA expects drought conditions to spread across portions of the Plains and Rockies. The outlook for the next 3 months show large areas seen in yellow here where NOAA expects drought conditions to develop. You'll see that also includes most of Florida. The areas in dark brown are where current drought conditions are expected to be persistent. The limited areas in green are where NOAA expects drought conditions to end over the next 3 months. The roof of a firehouse in New York caved in under the weight of heavy snow on Saturday. People were reportedly inside at the time. All were able to get out of there. Ben Kenny shows us the stunning collapse, which was all caught on camera.
It only took 3 seconds for a season's worth of snowfall to cause the Barneveld firehouse to come crashing to the ground. Members of the department spent the day Monday shoveling off the roof of what will be their temporary home, the town's highway garage, which is still relatively close to the site of the firehouse.
The new location is located about 3/4 of a mile down the road in Mapledale, so it's still right in the general vicinity of where most of our members live, so we should have no effect on our response times to anywhere in our district.
In 24 hours after the collapse of the firehouse, another blow was dealt to the town when word came in that their recycling center had collapsed. A few hours later, their old highway garage did the same. Town officials declined to go on camera, but told us that the town is currently assessing the situation and evaluating all town building. It comes as members of the fire department dig through what remains of their home to try and salvage anything they can.
It's going to be a lot of our history, our memorabilia, some older equipment that was in storage, that's buried in the rubble. We believe we've lost our gear dryer and our hose dryer and our skid unit for our UTV for brush fires. Other than that, until we can get the building, start to demolition the building, we really won't know what else we lost in there until then.
Many areas around the country are still seeing a warm up in temperatures this week. It's a reminder that spring is just around the corner, but many of those same areas will still see at least one hard freeze thanks to something called Arctic oscillation. Meteorologist Noah Hawk explains.
Yeah, that is right. Part of the reason we could still see a freeze is because of this thing we call the Arctic oscillation. Now, in the dead cold of winter, up the poles, we have a very strong high pressure because of how cold that air is. And because of that strong high pressure, it prevents that warmer air from down south from actually getting up into the poles and causes this thing we call zonal flow. And that's where the air is going to move in a straight line across the globe. And you'll notice that circle up there, it's going in a straight line and is also parallel to our latitudes. But as we start to go through spring, we're going to notice that that high pressure up in the pole is actually going to weaken a little bit because the Earth is starting to warm back up near the poles, and that's going to allow that warm air to shoot back up towards the poles and vice versa, and allow that colder air to shoot back down here in the States. And that's when we start to get a wave-like pattern in our jet streams. So that's why the last few weeks have been 1 week is warm, 1 week is colder, and vice versa. So that is part of the reason as to why we could still expect a freeze, and this variation with the wave pattern also helps to incite severe weather. So that's another reason as to why we typically see severe weather in the springtime forecast.
And we're now in what's called a solar spring. It's all about the angle of the sun, and it means that we will be gaining much more daylight in the days ahead. Meteorologist Amanda Verrier recently posted about it on TikTok. Take a look.
Have you noticed it yet? The way the snow melts faster now? Or how when you get in your car and the sun's been up for a little while, it's warm inside? Well, there's a reason for this, so let's get into it. Remember when we talked about solar seasons? Well, right now we're in solar spring, and this means that we are gaining daylight the fastest of the year. What is also happening is the sun's angle in the sky. It's actually getting higher and lasting longer throughout the day, hence the longer length of days we are seeing. The winter solstice is when we see the least amount of daylight, and this is because at noontime, the sun's angle in the sky is at its lowest path of the year. We are now approaching the spring equinox, and the equinoxes are kind of the middle ground of when we see the most or least amount of daylight. So it's equal day and night, the transitional zone of our seasons. Though we can still see snow and cold temperatures around this time of year, just remember that those warmer, longer days are right around the corner.
And there's a special treat in the skies to wrap up the month. It's a parade of planets. Meteorologist David Glenn tells us more, including how to see it.
Well, the evening sky is going to have a rare treat coming up through the end of the month. 7 planets will be visible in a sort of alignment as you go from east to west on the evening horizon. Now, if you're going to see the view, you want to set yourself up looking south and then panning from your left to your right. That'll be from east to west on the horizon. The first 2 most visible planets will be Mars and Jupiter. And then you follow along to the south and over to the west horizon. Uranus is here, and then in alignment going top to bottom, that'll line up from Venus, Neptune, Saturn, and Mercury. Count them, 7 in the night sky. Now, if you have a telescope, the viewing will be great, but you can't see it with the naked eye. And if you have only binoculars, that can help the view as well. One other thing, you got to be on the horizon away from light pollution. That is away from the city lights, especially in the hour or 2 just after sunset for the best view. Again, looking south, panning left to right or east to west on the horizon.
And check this out. Astronomers say they've spotted a dazzling light show from the Milky Way's black hole. The astronomers spotted the activity using the James Webb Space Telescope. The flares spotted were unleashed by a swirling disk of hot gas and dust. And coming up on the National Weather Desk, we'll hear how Google is using AI technology to help improve weather forecasting.
I'm meteorologist Charlie Lopresti with a look at the Northeast. We have a relatively mild air mass in the Northeast today and tomorrow. We should be in the 40s and 50s for highs. There'll be a lot of clouds, though. Look for a mainly cloudy day in the Northeast today, and we're tracking a little bit of rain and snow first traversing across New York and getting into New England during the afternoon, evening. That's about 5 p.m. That moves right along. The sun returns on Wednesday. It stays pretty warm with most areas in the Northeast warming 40s. Another round of rain and snow moves into the picture Thursday morning.
I'm Chief Meteorologist Gerard Jabali. Here's a look at the Mid-Atlantic region. A couple showers around for your Tuesday, but not a lot of rainfall here. The next system will likely bring us some. We're dry for your Wednesday, but by Thursday, another disturbance with this cold front will likely bring us some rainfall coming this way. But again, it's going to be mild until that system gets here. Temperatures in the 50s to even 60s, especially closer down to the lower altitudes, high altitudes in the 40s to 50s, and still very mild for your Wednesday, highs in the 50s to 60.
I'm meteorologist Charlotte Carl. Afternoon highs today a little bit above average for most of us. We are going to see temperatures in central Florida look pretty similar to the rest of the area, lower in mid 70s. Asheville, our cool spot in the upper 60s. We'll still see that Gulf low push off the Florida peninsula through the rest of your Tuesday, starting off into your later Tuesday, Wednesday. We remain dry thanks to high pressure settling in across the area. Few clouds start to creep in overnight Wednesday, heading into your Thursday.
Weather Window, presented by the National Weather Desk.
There's been so much snow in Mexico, New York, north of Syracuse, that folks can literally sled off a home's roof with little danger. This month alone, the town's already received more than 91 inches of snow. Several fantastic lenticular clouds were visible around Reno, Nevada on Sunday, and this Utah lake is only half frozen. More seasonably cold temperatures are expected to return this week.
For more content like this, subscribe to the National Weather Desk's YouTube channel.
Google DeepMind has been on the cutting edge of developing weather forecast models using artificial intelligence. Their most recent model, GenCast, claims to provide more accurate forecasts than the current top operational forecast models, up to 15 days in advance for both day-to-day weather as well as extreme weather events. Emily Gracie spoke to a member of the research team to find out how they accomplished this.
Can you kind of break down in really simple terms the difference between traditional computer modeling to do a forecast and the use of machine learning or AI to do a forecast?
So the traditional approach to forecasting the weather is essentially to simulate the physics, or at least the dominant physics of the atmosphere. So what that means is that we kind of write down some of the main physics equations that kind of describe the way that the atmosphere develops over time. And then we use computers to solve these equations numerically. But what it essentially does is simulate the physics, and we kind of roll the physics forward in time, and that tells us, okay, how is the atmosphere going to change? In other words, how is the weather going to change over time? The AI approach is, instead, the model is going to look at historical weather data, basically decades worth of historical weather data, and we task the model, the machine learning model, with learning the weather patterns directly by looking at that data.
Google DeepMind's always been really good about just sharing everything. This is what we've done, this is what we have, we're putting it out there. But I'm curious kind of the why of that. Most people are in something to make money.
I mean, weather is very much a public good. We care about kind of advancing the scientific frontier in this regard. And that really, it squares very much with Google DeepMind's mission, which is to advance AI, for the benefit of humanity and the benefit of society. And this is one of those instances where machine learning can really have, dramatic and very far-reaching benefits to everyone, because the weather touches everyone's lives, and in both small ways and sometimes, life-changing or life-devastating ways. So we're definitely kind of excited and motivated by the fact that this sort of research can kind of help advance a field which will really benefit so many people.
To hear more of this interview, check out this week's episode of our podcast. You'll hear some of the surprising ways AI is being used right now in weather and science. Find Off the Radar anywhere you listen to your podcasts. Every year, Virginia typically sees lower relative humidity, higher winds, and warmer temperatures during the spring season. These three factors all combined create an environment ripe for wildfires. Last year, it led to a near record season for fires. Grant Coleman looks at what state officials are doing to prepare for this upcoming wildfire season.
Rockingham County Forest Warden Darwin Rhodes remembers the March wildfires and how dry things were leading up to them. He says that we're in a better spot now, but doesn't want people to get complacent.
With the moisture, we are definitely in a better place than we were a year ago, but we're still highly susceptible this time of year.
With that heightened awareness in mind, the Department of Forestry has taken lessons they learned from last year and will apply them to this year.
Management teams is one thing that we found out last year that we didn't have enough of. And so this year they've added a couple teams to the agency to manage these fires once they do happen.
Even as the department makes changes and improvements, Rhodes stresses that the public should be mindful in limiting a fire spread as well.
Keeping the limbs and debris, the leaves pulled away from your houses, having effective green space around your residence.
Like every spring, open air burning is prohibited until 4 p.m. to mitigate the potential for a wildfire outbreak. And the burn law is in effect from February 15th through April 30th.
In Michigan, there's a new study underway to track the moose population. Meteorologist Trevor Robideau learned more about the project and why it's so important.
The moose has a long history in northern Michigan, having existed long before humans populated northern Michigan. According to the DNR, there was a decline in the moose population partly due to some human interaction over a century ago.
Because of logging and different practices that came to the area and industry, a lot of their habitat was destroyed.
There have been efforts to bring them back, one of which worked in the 1980s.
In 1985, 1987, moose were brought in from Ontario to kind of restart a free-ranging population of moose in Michigan.
But since, the population hasn't grown quite the way they anticipated.
The population, where it had kind of sat around between 400 and 500 individuals when we were expecting the landscape to maybe hold closer to 1,000 individuals.
And so the talks began over what should be done to address the concerns.
When this conversation started with the state too, it became like, hey, we have these really valuable skills that we know you guys do too, so let's figure it out and work together on it.
The plan is to put information trackers on 60 different moose over the course of the next few years to gather lots of information.
We're going to get a location every hour for about 7 years. And those locations are, they have about a 10-meter error on them. So we get really, really good habitat use information, migration information for those that are migratory moose, dispersing information.
The DNR and KBIC hopes that this collaboration will help retain this powerful symbol to northern Michigan.
Well, long before we had refrigerators and freezers, people used ice harvested from frozen lakes and rivers to help keep things cool. And even now in the 21st century, there's an ice house in Maine that celebrates that old tradition. Meteorologist Ryan Munn gives us a closer look at the tools used in this once thriving industry.
The tools that are used here at Thompson's Ice House Pond are quite old. That is, we presume, around 1905. That is the backbone of our operation. That is the mechanical circular saw that does basically most of the cutting, all but the bottom 3 to 5 inches of ice. There's hand saws, there's breaker bars. Every tool has a specific purpose. You don't have one tool that does multiple things. You have a particular tool that breaks the ice off, the hand saws that cut the ice off, a needle bar that actually will cut the blocks into pieces.
A big reason they cut the ice is to educate the population on this industry that was very popular back in the 1800s and early 1900s.
My biggest thing is to watch the young children show up, and we give them a pick. They actually help move the ice up the channel, and to see them participate in this and smile and have so much fun is just so rewarding.
As we head to break, we fly over Buffalo Ranch in Bedford County, Pennsylvania.
Good Tuesday morning, everyone. I'm meteorologist Andrew Buckmichael. Pretty quiet for most of the Midwest today. We've got a few showers out across the Great Lakes kicking out of here and a few more trying to move into the plains. All in all, pretty decent day for us today. The coolest spots look to be to the far north. No surprise with that. Tomorrow, temperatures staying pretty mild for us on Wednesday, but we do start to cool down a little bit for the Great Lakes as we head into Thursday. A lot of sunshine and mild across the plains.
Good morning, I'm meteorologist Alex Garcia. Here's a look at your regional weather. Just a little cool up at Amarillo at around 37, 40s and 50s elsewhere across the region. High pressure moves away, a little bit of a low kind of sneaks in, but here comes the next cold front. Looks like it could get here on Wednesday. May not have that much of an impact though. I'm meteorologist Alex Garcia, and that's a look at your regional weather.
Well, hi there and a good Tuesday morning to everybody. I'm meteorologist Shannon O'Donnell. In the Pacific Northwest, we are on the backside of a big windstorm. Still some lingering showers and some gusty winds today with lingering heavy snow over the Cascades. Phoenix, meanwhile, nearly 90 for spring training. That is some hot baseball weather in the desert Southwest. Again, this current weather maker continuing to push into the Rockies today for some heavy snow over the Continental Divide. And that's the scene from here.
You are watching the National Weather Desk.
Frost is something we are all very familiar with, but did you know there are different types of frost? Meteorologist Joy Bedenhausen recently posted on Instagram about hoarfrost. Take a look.
Have you heard of hoarfrost? Yeah, you heard me correctly. We're gonna make some sense of this. Okay, to get hoarfrost, you need the sun overhead and an Arctic air mass in place. Think about the cold air that we received last week, and in this example, our air temperature just above the surface is 21 degrees. So at nighttime, all the heat that's been trapped near the ground from the sunshine will start to rise, and that air just above the surface will cool. So the ground continues to cool, and essentially that cooling process will force moisture to form on branches or trees. Now this is different from our normal, what we're used to for a frost formation, because the air temperature will start actually below freezing in this scenario. So this is what it looks like. It's this one right here, and it looks like essentially feathers, and it's so beautiful to see.
And we post content like this from our team of meteorologists across the country on social media. You can find us on all your favorite platforms. Just search the National Weather Desk. We'll be right back. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Angela Brown. Make it a great day, and I'll see you right back here tomorrow.